Now, y'all, I'm going to do something a little different today. If you listened to me a couple of weeks ago, I suggested to you that the country is not as divided as to endanger our future. But that's been eating on me ever since I said that, because I ended the session with "we'll be fine." And we will, I think, with one caveat, and that's what I've been worried about, thinking about. There's one way we won't be fine, and I'd like for you to think with me about it. Now, let me tell you something you may not know. Your credit score is exemplary. I don't care who you are. And you probably don't even know that it's substantially higher than what you think it is. It must be exemplary because you owe at least $85,557 more than you think you do. Now, that figure is assuming that you're just a breathing American. If you're a taxpayer, your adjusted additional figure is $226,794. Now, you might doubt these figures, and I'll admit that they're approximate, but they probably aren't too far off, and they continue to increase. See, the U.S. government, as best as I can ascertain from various responsible sources, is about $28 trillion. Now, that number, while it's measurable, is a figure that I just cannot get my head around. I wrote down the figure 1 trillion, and then I had to call Siri to ensure that it was correct. And we agreed that the figure 1 in a trillion is followed by 12 zeros. Now, you divide that figure of 1 divided by that figure of 28 followed by 12 zeros. Divide the figure by the population, which is 353 million. And that figure's approximate. So that's where the above 85,000 and 226,000 comes from. And that's why I surmise that your credit is very high, because anybody who's amassed that kind of debt has to have a high credit score. Your eyes glazing over yet? Now that kind of logic is ridiculous, of course. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was trotted out by some member of Congress or member of the administration. There have been more absurd claims touted in the past, and little tricks have been played to keep you watching the shiny object while your pocket's being picked. The robbing of Social Security Trust Fund is a classic example. As I understand it, that fund initially was sacrosanct and immune from financing anything other than Social Security. However, in the 1960s, during the Lyndon Johnson administration, the national debt had expanded to the point that the powers that be worried about the effect this large figure would have on the voters. So it was decided to incorporate the Social Security Fund into the overall budget, just so the debt would show as a smaller percentage of the total. Well, once it was in the overall budget, the next step was to borrow from that fund and issue notes to the fund in the amount borrowed. Well, unfortunately, under current conditions, the notes are now virtually worthless, and the fund is being depleted. Well, now don't think I'm just bashing Democrats, because I'm not. I don't remember significant actions to alleviate our debt being performed by the Republicans either. Both used to at least talk about balancing the budget or cutting unnecessary spending, although the action performed by both parties is woefully lacking. The result has been to amass a crushing debt that'll rest on the shoulders of our children and grandchildren, and I'm ashamed of that. Now, I, like many of you, have been so busy at making a living or educating the kids or preparing for retirement or planning vacations or supporting our favorite teams to seriously evaluate the goings-on in Washington. We hear speeches promising to solve problems and loving country, but almost never doing the unlovely job of, how shall I put this, assessing the job that our elected leaders are performing. Do you know what kind of job your senator or representative is doing? Now, we have 435 representatives in the House and 100 senators. But do you have any idea what actual duties are being performed by 90% of them, other than following the party's dictates? I know I sure don't. Yet we still elect the same ones over and over while the debt continues to rise. I'd like to see a real firebrand arise in one of those bodies with an attitude that re-election is not the most important thing in his or her life, and attack the debt problem head on. This firebrand will almost certainly not be very popular with his cohorts, since his or her actions will necessitate change, and changed outcome is often difficult to predict. Status quo is preferred since it's comfortable. Now, I'm no economics expert, but I have run a business, and I've found that a few facts are unquestionably true. One, organizations cannot survive indefinitely when spending exceeds income. And two, if it costs too much, you should change it or delete it. Three, debts at some time will have to be paid, or the results will not be pleasant. 4, favorite things or activities sometimes have to be eliminated. And a few things might be completed by our government beginning now. 1, cut every agency or activity let's cut the spending by 10%. Not just 10% of budgeted increase, 10% of total spending. It can be done. We all know it can. 2, stop sending money to other countries until we're financially solvent. 3, eliminate duplication. Homelessness is a problem, for example, but do we really need 21 different programs to address it? 4, if fraud is discovered in any program by recipient or provider, jail them. 5, target needs. The coronavirus did hurt some people, but did everybody need a $1,200 check to stimulate the economy? I think not. Change the tax code is number 6. Somebody estimated that the current tax regulation required 70,000 pages. The IRS hurriedly corrected them and informed them that the regs only required 2,600 pages. What simplicity. Well, I personally favor the fair tax, and I'll get some questions about that, I'm sure. But if you're not familiar with it, go look at fairtax.org. And that's all I'll say about that. There's just a few things I submit to you for your consideration. You almost certainly have other items to add to this list, and they're probably better than mine. But if your representative or senator or president won't try, let him or her know that you will not vote for them in the next election, and you'll try to influence others to think the same way you do. But if they really try and agree to try and really try, and you make sure that they do, then support them. Now, I know this will take some effort. Yeah, I know that. But your grandchildren will be grateful. And the alternative is for you to just go ahead and write to the government that check for $226,000 and hope that the rest of us do the same, thereby eliminating the problem. Until, of course, the next session of Congress. Well, I hope I've made some sense. I hope you won't fuss at me too bad after this with the things you disagree with. But I'm Jim Ritchie, and I hope I'll see you again next time.